In this video we answer the commonly asked question of, why are Jews wealthy, rich and successful? Jews comprise a very small proportion of the world's population, yet they constitute a disproportionately large percentage of success in multiple fields that include business, academia and economics. Outside of Israel, their relative and absolute numbers are even smaller. However, irrespective of where they are, they seem to be proportionately more successful than other population groups. We will look at the reasons why that is the case. Even more importantly, we will look at the lessons we can learn from the Jewish playbook. Clearly, there is something they know that others do not know, or there is something they do that others need to learn to do as well. There are many theories over the internet, which say Jews are rich because they cheat, and are dishonest business people. Some say, they operate as a closely knit group, that shares special business secrets that others do not have access to. Or, could the Jewish riches and successes be due to something special that they eat, or how they prepare their meals? Prominent author, Rabbi Daniel Maine explains that none of these are true. If Jews were inherently dishonest, most people would not want to do business with them. He also dismisses the idea of them being a homogeneous group, that collectively plots to take over the world. Clearly, the diet suggestion is a bit nonsensical. What then are the reasons for Jewish wealth, riches and success? Let us suppose you like the quality and taste of fruit from this tree, and want to produce more and more such trees and fruit. It would not be very helpful to only study the fruit. You would get far more knowledge and helpful insights if you look at the entire ecosystem that leads to the production of that fruit. You would need to look at the soil, the water, the sun exposure, and other variables that are the supply chain precursors of the final product. The fruit, the bountiful product, is the result of all these. You would also need to take a step back and look at the processes that have led to the current success. You would also need to look at what is recorded in the history books. In other words, a superficial look at a few fruits won't help you much. Our starting point is with the truth that so many people seem not to understand: the nature and structure of a human being. Let us use the metaphor of a plant to make the point easier to understand. The quality of the fruit is not only determined by the actions of the seen part of the plant that is above ground, you also need to look at the root system. Remember that the root system is unseen, but that does not make it any less real. The tendency of most people is to focus more on the part of the plant that is seen. Just like this plant, you as a human being are made up of natural visible matter and invisible spiritual matter. That means, the fruit you produce comes from your natural actions, and your spiritual actions. You take both sets of actions daily, even if you are not aware that you have been doing so. To understand the reasons for the success of the Jewish people, we must look at both the natural actions they take, as well as their spiritual actions. That would be a holistic way of looking at the situation. There are no credible studies which prove that intellectually gifted people perform better than those less gifted. Smart people succeed, and not so smart people also become rich and wealthy. What we do know is that what you believe influences what you think about most often. Your thoughts, in turn, shape your actions and behaviors. You cannot look at actions in isolation from the thoughts that shape them, and the belief system that shapes those thoughts. What does that tell us? What is unique and different about Jews is what they believe. They believe in the God who is very different from other gods. He is the God who is about justice. His message is that all people must live in peace with their neighbors. Love is the primary law of his government system. Even more than that, he introduces himself as the God who is responsible for all creation. He authoritatively talks about how he created the earth, the universe and everything in existence, both seen and unseen. He speaks with absolute authority about what is going to happen in the future. These prophecies have come to pass. He is the God who speaks very commandingly about how he called Abraham and made a covenant with him. That covenant includes these 5 promises to Abraham and his descendants, on condition that they become obedient to his way of doing things. The 5 conditions are: first, he gave him and his descendants a piece of land to possess forever. Second, he promised him blessings and prosperity. Third, He said he would have many, many descendants who would fill the whole earth. Fourth, he promised that the enemies of the Jewish people would never destroy them. Fifth, Abraham would become a blessing to all the nations of the world. It is important to note that these promises, contained in the Abrahamic covenant, had one condition that Abraham and his descendants, the Jewish people, had to meet. That condition was to be obedient, to follow God's way of living and doing things. It was that obedience that would kick-start the blessings. In practical terms, prosperity, happiness and success were written in the book of the law. They needed to know it. The one word that summarizes that law is love. Love is the law of the God of the Jewish people, but they had to do more than just talk about it. They had to live it. You live love by having good relationships with all people. More importantly, you identify problems and offer solutions. You share these solutions with whomever can benefit from them. The world's economic system calls that sharing of solutions, sales and selling. It is best to think of it as serving and offering solutions. People can't use your good solution if they do not understand what it can do for them. Please do not think of it in terms of the proverbial greasy salesman, who pressures people into buying what they do not need. That is against the law of love. It is cheating. The law requires justice and fairness. Love is fair, and does not do wrong to the other person. God says there is too much negativity and darkness in the world. Your job is to become the source of light and good news. There is no situation on earth under which darkness can overpower light. If you seek to be the source of light by offering solutions, you will always succeed. Remember, love is about relationships, because that is how you share those solutions, and benefit from the Abrahamic covenant. What we are saying is this: the Old Testament is the top secret document that is the source of riches and wealth for Jewish people. The secrets are there for anyone who wants to learn about them. Let us take one example. Genesis chapter 1 verse 28 says, "Then God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." First, remember that the Bible message is fractal in nature. That means, it has a number of progressively deeper meanings based on the closeness of your relationship with God. The above verse outlines what is the economic system we know today. Be fruitful means, you need to look for opportunities to solve problems and add value. Multiply means, have a system to replicate those solutions across different territories. Replenish means, stock up again and distribute those solutions. To subdue something, is to keep it under control, to manage it properly. Had you ever noticed this before? God is saying, go out there and be a problem solver, and have a good system for managing that operation. You can do so working from home. You can professionalize your dog training hobby, so that others can benefit from your gift. Take that cleaning business and run it properly. It is no different from that big store down the road. The thinking is all the same. Solve problems, share solutions, have a management system in place, and never ever cheat. Be the expression of love. The success of Jewish people is not just in what they do, it is in how they do what they do. The fruit that you see, the riches, the wealth, the success, the awards, are the product of constantly taking two sets of actions, as explained earlier. These are natural actions, and spiritual actions. Jews invest time learning the law of God and how to implement it properly. It is generally how they do things from childhood. It is their lifestyle. They know and believe these principles of God. They know they work, because they have worked for generations. They are as predictable, and as reliable as the laws of science are. If you obey them, you succeed. If you break them, you suffer. That is what laws and principles do, because God set them up that way. If you think this believing in the God of the Jews and of the Bible stuff is a waste of time, look at the following. Jews constitute far less than 0.5% of the world's population, but look at how many have been awarded the Nobel Prize. It is a staggering more than 30%. How do you explain that? They are highly awarded in many fields. Based on what we've just explained, It should not come as a surprise that one of the fields they dominate in is economics. The list of prominent Jewish economists is too long to mention. Here are some of the most high-profile names: David Ricardo, John von Neumann, Milton Friedman, Daniel Kahneman, Alan Greenspan, Janet Yellen. The last two were recent chairs of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Perhaps the most famous Jewish Nobel laureate is scientist Albert Einstein. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks argues that the first economist was Joseph, the son of the patriarch Jacob. Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream about 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows, and used that revelation to put together a successful economic plan that saved the lives of many Jews and Egyptians. Here is something that is very interesting. Jews are the beneficiaries of Abraham's covenant, but so are Christians. Through his death at the cross, Jesus Christ extended that covenant to cover non-Jews. That means, the Gentiles are also the full beneficiaries of the covenant of Abraham. But how come we do not see the same level of prosperity, wealth and success among them? To understand that, you need to know what the key difference between Judaism and Christianity is. Jews believe that the Messiah promised by God is still to come. Christians believe Jesus Christ is that promised Messiah, who has already come. The consequence of that is this: Jews become righteous before God through keeping the law. Righteous means to be in right standing with God. Christians become righteous before God by believing in Jesus Christ as the promised Messiah. Many Christians interpret that to mean that the system of laws contained in the Old Testament no longer applies to them. But this understanding is wrong. The laws still apply, because they were meant to be the expression of love and relationships. What is different is that observing the law does not make you righteous before God. Faith does that, but the laws are still applicable. For example, the law of love for God and your neighbor covers all the 10 commandments. The sacrifice of Jesus Christ at the cross changes only one thing. Mankind becomes righteous before God, not through observance of the law, but through faith in Jesus Christ. But the laws still apply because they are the way of the kingdom of God. They are how you grow in your relationship with Him, and become increasingly fruitful on earth. The answer to the question of why Christians are not as successful, even though they have the same book of the law as the Jews, is this: Jews take the book of the law literally. They have made it an integral part of their lifestyles. Christians tend to take the promises more figuratively. They do not see solving problems in their ecosystem as the core of their mandate, even though that is what the New Testament teaches. Love is about solving problems, and improving the lives of yourself and others. It is part of the Great Commission mandate. In summary, Jews are disproportionately rich, wealthy and successful, because they live by the top secret book of the law as part of their lifestyle. The Old Testament. They take the promises literally, and live by them daily. From childhood, they look for opportunities to serve, to find solutions to problems in their ecosystem. They see this as part of serving God. And indeed it is. What hope is there for those of us who are not Jewish? As explained earlier, Jesus Christ made Abraham's covenant applicable to Gentiles. The sole condition is faith, believing that He is the Son of God. It is the same God of the Jewish people. But make sure that you do not take the promises figuratively. You have to believe they are real. And indeed, they are. Ask Jewish people. If you found this video helpful, we recommend that you do these 3 things. First, subscribe to our channel called My Promised Land. Second, share the video with anyone you think might benefit from its information. Also, add your thoughts in the comment section below. You can also visit our channel for more insightful and practical Christian wisdom videos. See you in the next video. Bye for now.